Let me tell you, I never thought my peaceful life at Oak Ridge Estates would be blown apart by the shriek of gun. He's got a gun, echoing through my front yard on what should have been just another quiet morning. But when Patricia Whitmore, the queen bee of our HOA, in her gold-embroidered polo with that ridiculous 3-inch thick rulebook clutched like it was the Constitution, marshaled 3 police cruisers to my driveway, sirens blaring, lights strobing, and weapons drawn on my own son for nothing more than carrying a duffel bag into our guest house. Well, that was the day I realized my neighbor wasn't just a stickler for rules. She was a full-blown dictator. What Patricia didn't know, and what made this whole farce almost laughable if it hadn't been so dangerous, was that my son Michael, yeah, the guy she sicked the SWAT team on, had just returned from 4 years commanding troops in Afghanistan. Major Michael Reynolds, U.S. Army, decorated and respected, home to decompress, maybe fix up his dad's old place before figuring out his next steps. And as fate would have it, the county sheriff, Bill Deacon, happened to serve under my son in the Army. You see where this is going. I've lived in Oak Ridge Estates for 25 years, bought the place with my late wife, raised Michael here, built the guest house myself, back when this was a neighborhood, not a mini-kingdom. No HOA back then, no one peering over the fence or dictating what color my mailbox could be. But 15 years ago, the HOA crept in, first with reasonable stuff, like a small fee to mow common lawns, then with more rules, then more power, and then came Patricia. She moved in after her politician husband died, charmed her way onto the board, and soon enough she was president for life. You know the type. She'd walk around with her little pink notebook, writing up violations with almost unholy glee, fines for garden gnomes, basketball hoops, American flags too big for her taste. Me? I kept my head down. Lawn tidy, bills paid, no trouble until Michael called to say he was coming home, needed time alone, and that old guest house was perfect for him. So I got to work, fixing leaks, repainting, swapping out a water heater, and that's when Patricia pounced. You ever hear someone clear their throat and know it's about to ruin your day? That's the effect Patricia's got around here. She strutted up in her custom polo and khakis, giving me the Marcus, "What exactly do you think you're doing?" routine. I explained, calm as I could, that my son, my own flesh and blood, was moving into the guest house. She told me no can do. New bylaws, no rentals, no unapproved tenants, all occupants must be board approved. This isn't a rental, Patricia. This is my son. But she just smiled, handed me a packet of fresh rules, no separate kitchens, only relatives over 65 or under 18, all kinds of nonsense. And none of it made sense for a guest house built 2 decades before her precious rules even existed. She threatened daily fines, left violation notices taped to my door in bold red letters, her signature looping underneath like it was a royal decree. That's when I called Jessica Quinn, an attorney who knows HOA law backwards and forwards. "This is classic overreach," she said, and promised a fight. She told me to document everything and get ready. Patricia had no right to bar my son from his own home. Michael arrived 5 days later, taller, sterner, but still my boy under all that military bearing. Our neighbor Rosa was the first to greet him. Her husband served in Vietnam, and she's got no patience for HOA nonsense. Over steaks that night, Rosa dropped a bomb. Patricia had once been a legal secretary, fired for falsifying documents. Knows enough law to be dangerous, she warned. Next day, Jessica texted me about an emergency HOA meeting. I found a so-called amendment buried in the newsletter, restricting all guest house occupancy to the elderly or minors, no exceptions, even for military veterans. And you know what? The document was a fake, different font, wrong format, clearly forged. Patricia hadn't just stretched the truth, she was outright fabricating it. When Michael saw it, he looked at me and said, "Dad, this isn't just petty HOA drama. She's committing fraud." He was right. That night, we decided to show up at Patricia's meeting, Michael in full uniform. The room was packed, and when Sheriff Deacon walked in and snapped a salute, calling Michael "Sir," the whole narrative shifted. Patricia tried to spin tales about security concerns and anonymous complaints, but her control was slipping. Deacon made it clear that federal law protected service members' rights, and when Patricia's fake rules were put to a vote, they crashed and burned. But Patricia didn't quit. A few days later, As Michael was repairing the backyard fence, she called the police again, claimed he was armed and dangerous. Cops showed up, guns nearly drawn, and Michael, as cool as can be, put down his tools and calmly explained himself. Patricia kept insisting she saw a weapon. Turned out to be a tape measure clipped to his belt. If not for Sheriff Deacon arriving and shutting it down, it could have gone south real fast. Then, Patricia escalated again, caught on our security cameras sneaking around the guest house at night, peering through windows, checking the electrical meter. Jessica added the footage to our growing legal case. Patricia was now trespassing, not just harassing. And as if that wasn't enough, Patricia took her crusade public, got a friendly local journalist to write a hit piece about combat veterans posing a danger to communities. She painted Michael as a threat, played the PTSD card, stoked fears. Rosa, furious, called her niece Diane, a real reporter. Diane did her homework, unearthed Patricia's history of document fraud and HOA abuses, and aired a story that blew the lid off Patricia's scheme. Suddenly, Patricia fired off a neighborhood-wide safety alert, with a forged legal notice threatening to put a lien on my house. Jessica saw right through it, another crime to add to the pile. That's when Jim Parker, city councilman and one of Patricia's allies, showed up at my door, pale as a ghost, and handed me a flash drive. Patricia's gone too far. I can't be part of this. On it, emails with developers, her plan to harass targeted homeowners, like me, until we caved and sold. Also, they could rezone the land for high-density profit. This wasn't just about one power-hungry neighbor anymore. Patricia was trying to force us out for cash and using her position to bully everyone who stood in her way. Other neighbors compared notes, found out they'd been targeted too. The story exploded, drew state attention, and soon the Attorney General announced an investigation into racketeering, fraud, and conspiracy. Patricia tried one last, desperate play, filed an emergency injunction to kick Michael out, painting him as a violent, unstable vet. But when it came to court, the judge, a Marine veteran himself, saw through it. Jessica destroyed Patricia's arguments with evidence of her fraud, emails with developers, and expert testimony that Michael actually specialized in trauma recovery for soldiers. The judge not only denied her petition, but referred her to the DA for prosecution. When Patricia finally cracked, shouting in the street about military installations and surveillance equipment, which was just our TV antenna, for crying out loud. The county sent a mental health team. Patricia was taken away for treatment. Neighbors rallied. The HOA board was overhauled, with real elections and bylaws for transparency. Rosa was elected interim chair, and Michael designed a memorial garden for veterans in the park. Weeks later, Dr. Richards, Patricia's therapist, delivered a handwritten apology from Patricia. She admitted she'd lost her way. The neighborhood rebuilt itself, stronger, open, with new rules that encouraged, not punished, diversity and community. Michael moved on to the Pentagon, working to help other veterans reintegrate. Our guest house is now a haven for vets passing through. The story went viral, led to new state laws limiting HOA power, and Jessica now fights for homeowners everywhere. But what stuck with me is this: bullies rely on people staying silent, divided. When we speak up and stand together, their power crumbles. The greatest victory isn't just legal, it's watching a community come back to life. So if you're up against someone abusing their power, HOA, boss, whatever, don't back down. Find your voice, find your people, and stand firm. If you want more stories of justice served, subscribe and join the conversation below. Have you faced an HOA nightmare or had to push back against abusive power? Let's hear your story, because when we stand together, there's nothing we can't overcome.